All right. Good Thursday morning. I was going to say Wednesday for a second. Good Thursday morning. It is Thursday, July 9th, and this is our first in our series for The One Thing.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. So for those of you who don't have a One Thing book, we do have some at our office, so feel free to reach out to one of us. But today we're really going to be diving in, kind of like we did with the MREA and Shift. The One Thing is a little bit different because it's, the cool thing about this book, Mary Beth, and for those of you who have it, Gary's already kind of underlined a lot of the key points throughout the book. That's one thing about the One Thing that I like is that as I was highlighting through it, there was a lot of stuff already underlined. And so with that, Mary Beth, I do want to just give a quick plug for our business planning clinic, mid-year business planning clinic next Tuesday. Because a lot of that, yes, it's Tuesday from 10 to 12. And the thing with the business planning clinic, a lot of it starts with mindset and a lot of it starts with goal setting, which is really what the One Thing talks about throughout the book. So as we dive in, I really just wanted to start on page 10, which really kind of underscores the entire book, which is extraordinary results are directly determined by how narrow you can make your focus. So as we've talked about one of those bold laws, what you focus on expands. So we're really going to talk about how to purposefully make your focus and narrow your focus to one thing, where in doing that, it'll make everything easier or unnecessary.
That's right. So that is the question. And just before we dive in, I know that this is a shorter book and we do intend on getting through it in less time than we have in the other books. However, I think it's one of the most important books that Gary and Jay have written. And so, just to slow that down, Gary Keller and Jay Papasan are amazing authors. They bring the best industry books to us. And you can find those books on kellerinc.com, kellerinc.com. You can order the resources, the audio. You can also go to theonething.com. Theonething.com gives you even more resources for specifically the One Thing. There's a retreat that they have in the fall, and there's also some tools, some 411s and 135s, which will help you keep your focus. And it's so just purposefully put there behind you, Matt. What you focus on expands, and I know that's one of your favorite bold laws, and it's so true, because anything in life, if you are having a challenge in any area, and that's something that this book does cover. This is not about real estate. They're actually taking this book and they brought it out to corporate seminars. So not only do we have real estate instructors teaching on this book and bringing it to organizations, but we also have other types of businesses that are benefiting from this book. Also, when they go on tour, they have had the One Thing tour travel through the different regions. And when that happens, we are always encouraged to bring our spouse, bring our children, bring someone just wants more out of life, or just wants to, it's like going deeper instead of going wider. I just, without getting into the book for a second, we are a society that has so much information thrown at us. Having the kids home, my nieces and nephews and King, you're watching them interact, and it's like they're on like sensory overload because of they have YouTube, Xbox, they have then they're on Roblox, they're on the game, and all this information is going in their brains. And so when that happens to us, it's like you just don't know what direction to go, or you start one direction and then you get thrown off because something else is happening. And that is normal. I mean, if anybody's feeling that way and you feel like I'm out of control, I need to get my life together, I would say everybody has those moments, and it could be on a daily basis. It could be I can go so long before I start to feel that. And so that is something that this book addresses. It's kind of like simplifying your life by identifying a focus. And Matt, to your, the final words you said, it's that it becomes everything else becomes unnecessary. So
Yep.
what is that one thing that if you just focused on that and you paid attention to that, that everything else would either become unnecessary or it would find its way to work its way out because you did the one thing.
Yep.
And so I love this book, and there are great thought questions in here. And I'm just going to
Yep.
encourage us to, if you don't have the book, absolutely get the book, and leave it as something that you often go back to when you're feeling out of balance.
Absolutely. And I think this, in essence, in order to believe that something can be done at the smallest level, we've talked about in the MREA, they talked about the 4-minute mile and how for so long it couldn't be done. And then all of a sudden somebody, broke it down and said, okay, what's 1 mile? I have to do 1 mile in, 59 seconds. And then you did that. Then you do it for 2 miles and 3 miles. So, and then once one person did it, then many more people were able to do it. So I think that it starts there.
Well, you brought up a really major point in this book. Is success is sequential.
Yep.
So Matt, you just said he did the 1 mile, then he did the 2 mile, and he tracked that, and it was a 3 mile, and then maybe he got a better time with that. And success is sequential. It does not happen overnight. It's like gradually and then suddenly. And we see the suddenly, and we're like, wow, I want to be that, or I want to do that, or I want to have that. And it's like you didn't see all the work that was behind it. You just saw the last few months of this person achieving what they were working towards for their whole career.
Well, I think the best illustration of that, and when I first read The One Thing, I really bought in early on, which was page 12 and 13, which is the Domino Effect, which is really, which is showing that, they're talking about, and I don't know if I can, I got a different background, but you might not be able to see that, but ultimately, each standing domino represents a small amount of potential energy. So the more you line up, the more potential energy you've accumulated. So as Gary writes, or Jay and Gary, line up enough, and with a simple flick, you can start a chain reaction of surprising power. So it all starts with that first domino, and once that first one goes, it can topple down the next bigger one, the next bigger one, the next bigger one. So it's understanding that success can start with just focusing on that one thing that's going to topple then the rest of the dominoes. And it's critical that if you believe that, then it's just waking up every day and doing your one thing.
Well, and to that point, I bought in on the next 2 pages, which is 14 and 15. 14 and 15 shows you a visual of literally one. And okay, so imagine this: one domino can knock down a domino that's twice its size. Would you agree that this domino can knock down that domino? Right. So then, could this domino knock down that domino? Yes. So if you had that, it would knock over. And then if the next one was bigger, it would knock over, right? So what they say is a domino can actually knock down twice its size.
Yep.
And the illustration here is that if you were to focus, and it would just sequentially add up, to the 18th domino. That 18th domino is the Tower of Pisa. That's how tall it is. The 23rd domino in this lineup, imagine all these dominoes lined up, 57 dominoes. On the 57th domino, you are almost at the distance of the moon. The moon, 57 dominoes. We're not talking a million, 7 sequential steps to get to that moon.
Yep.
And so the other thing that I think about here is we shortchange ourselves, because when we talk about growth in business, or prior to really understanding our business models in Keller Williams and in general business models, I would think that a 20% increase year over year would be a pretty decent increase, right? A company that's making money, growing by 20% of profits every year over year. Well, that's kind of just average. With natural business models, you should be able to increase your business. More people will come, clients would refer maybe a second or third referral. And so it should increase by at least 20%.
Yep.
you're really trying to grow something, if you are looking, if you're intending to receive something, you're working towards an achievement, you should be looking at double down. You know, you should be looking at, how do I double the income? How do I double, you know, that's what you can do year over year. If you did 10 transactions, you shouldn't be looking to do 12 this year. You should be looking to do 20. And if you did 20 transactions, you put like one assistant in place, you should be able to do 40.
Yeah.
40, put a buyer's agent in place, you should be able to do 80. Okay,
Yeah.
so some of us go, oh, I had a great year. It was 20 transactions. Last year I did 18. I did 20 this year. I look at that as like flat line. Like, you didn't change much. That was a natural growth. But if you're
Yeah.
looking to grow something, you are going to hold it accountable, and you're going to look to see if you could double the production, double the whatever, double the weight loss, double the money earned, double the vacations gone on. You know, it shouldn't just be a little increment. And this
Yeah.
book allows you to understand that by focusing, by zoning in on the one thing.
Yeah.
Now, it's a one thing for financial, it's a one thing for health, it's a one thing for, yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to say, but you're saying, well, okay, if you didn't get the health and you didn't get, what out of all of those things, what is the one thing that if you don't do that one thing, well, you don't get the opportunity to do the other one things. And if you were to look at anybody that breathes, health would be one thing. If you're not here, and Gary says it all the time, and those of you who know Gary Keller's story, you know, he did go through a sickness at one point. He had a shaken leg syndrome, which really took a toll on his body. And so that's where I saw his message to us really get into, guys, if you're not taking care of your body, where do you have to live? You only have one body. And so that message is universal, that if you are not alive, well, then you don't get to do anything. So what is the one thing in your health to keep you healthy and you know, where you want to be? And for some of us, it might be exercise. For some of us, it might be water, you know, food intake. But
well, and I think, you know, one thing where you're going with this is that as we continue through this chapter, no one succeeds alone. You know, as we get through to pages 17, 18, 19, you know, it's one thing to find your one thing, yet it's also another thing in order to be kind of steered in that direction, or maybe somebody there that's helping you. So for example, in the book, they talk about a couple people. They talk about Walt Disney, and they talk about how, you know, Walt Disney at a young age, he would be with his brother Roy, who would take him to his animation studio, and you know, Walt Disney really fell in love with animation, and really Roy helped enable that passion and helped encourage him to really build one of the top entertainment enterprises in the world with Disney World. You look at Oprah Winfrey. If it wasn't for her father, that's another person that he highlights in here, was that if it wasn't for her father to help guide her down the path of, again, into the media, into a passion for interviewing, the passion for, you know, seeking to understand other people, she may not have had a daytime talk show. So, you know,
no, she said she would have gone in a different direction. She probably would have gone into a different direction if it wasn't for her life.
Exactly.
You make a point though with Walt Disney, right? And then they also give the example of Sam Walton, who started Walmart, who his father-in-law was the person who gave him a $20,000 to open up his first store, which turned into him opening up his first Walmart. When you look at Walt Disney, we look at when I think Disney, I think memories, I think magical, because that's what they created. They created a Disney-like experience. When you think about Disney, what it's become over the last, I don't know, 100 years or so, it started with the animation. And do you think that Walt or Roy ever thought that they would have like the profits that would come off of the sales of the plushies and the t-shirts and the everything that came from those two individuals, and Walt identifying Roy as his one thing? He wasn't thinking about, okay, and then how do I get the merchandise out there? The merchandise came because of a residual effect of him focusing which was Mickey Mouse.
And it also, though, came down to somebody empowering him to pursue his dreams. Because, and we've talked about this, correct, we talked about this with the MREA. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Because if you had someone that's like, oh, you know, well, you're not going to, what are these designs going to ever really amount to? Or you're not going to ever, like, who's going to succeed in animation? Like, you know, because especially back then, there weren't that many people that did do that as a profession. So it's important to have people who are saying, yeah, well, why can't you be the best in you know, in the business? Why can't you pursue your dreams or go for it? So, you know, who is nourishing your mind around you has a big impact of where you can get to. And I think that that's important when we're looking at the one thing, is making sure you realize no one succeeds alone, and that the really 5 people around you, closest people, are going to be the ones that are going to dictate how you're going to perceive what you can and can't accomplish.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be that you're out there in the spotlight, because when they give the example of John Lennon,
Yep.
it's not John Lennon, Paul McCartney, it's George Martin, which is the record producer. And so, you know, we know it as the Beatles, and we know John Lennon and McCartney, but I bet you that there's plenty of people that don't know who George Martin is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this also, no one succeeds alone, and make sure you are surrounding yourself with those that are where you want to be in thinking, or where you want to be, or who you're becoming in thinking, who you're becoming in financial, in relationships. I'll tell you also that when you're identifying people, relationships are so important. And I think we kind of, we don't give it the credit that it deserves, that communication and relationship matters. So when you find these people, that one person, that is, it's not just going to happen because, oh, Matt's my friend and I know Matt and I hang with Matt. I have to have a relationship. I have to know how does Matt tick? Why does he think like that? And then I can be influenced and by that person. It also says passion, and passion, one skill. It's okay to say, I'm not great in everything. How am I going to succeed? I'm really great at this. Okay, we'll take that one thing that you're really great at and let's dive deep.
Yeah.
What industry is that needed in? What business is that needed in? Can we create a business around it? I'm tired of people, you know, chameleonizing themselves into what other people want for them, or they want, you know, this level of monetary success, and they think they have to go down this path, which is not a passion of theirs, and it just shows in your work. So find that passion, find that skill, and and hook on to it.
Absolutely. And I think, again, you know, that also comes down to, do you have people holding you accountable in your world? Do you have somebody coaching you in your world? Who in your world is going to help you make sure you achieve where you want to get to? Yeah.
And I know there's tools back here, and to that point, I would share with you, my coach yesterday, we were talking about my 135, and we'll talk about that, because a 135, and if anything happens from this series, Matt, that you and I do, is that somebody will get hold of a 135 for themselves, because a 135, which is one goal, one business objective, one thing that you're looking to accomplish, with 3 goals beneath it, and those 3 goals have 5 strategies. So it's identifying that one thing that you want to accomplish, and it could be in business, like I'll use Gabby, hit platinum. Platinum to me would be such an achievement, and that is 20 million in closed volume. Well, in order to close 20 million in closed volume, that one thing, you create a whole plan around it. And so, but identifying thing, it's not, oh, I need to go take 20 listings. Oh, I need to sell 10 buyers. It's, I intend on closing 20 million in volume. That is the one thing. You post it, you put it everywhere, and then you create a plan behind it. But you need to identify what the one thing is for you. In that one life, he talks about Bill Gates. When you dedicate your life to one thing, well, it shows up. So Bill Gates is an example. One passion in high school was computers for Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Look where we are with that.
Absolutely.
And so it says the one thing sits at this on page 24, the one thing the heart of success, and it is the starting point for achieving extraordinary results.
Absolutely.
You know, we've heard the jack of all trades, master of none, right?
Yep.
So it's committing to self-mastery in that one thing, whereas everything else just falls in line from you doing that one thing.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a good spot to really leave off for today, because as we shift into the next part of the book, we're going to go into the 6 lies between you and success. So next week, we'll really go through what those 6 lies are, and really be able to dive a little bit deeper into that, page 30 forward.
Okay. And before we end, I just want to give some questions to leave the group with. So we just kind of covered pages maybe 6 to 25 or so.
Yeah.
And that's really just the introduction of the book. And so one of the things that we talk about is going small. So identifying that one thing, going small enough to granularize. And I think that's a cool word that we're using now. Like they want a granular look to it. It's very so you're like picking things apart, right? So when you pick apart your goals and you think about where am I going, especially now in this like very strange time, where am I going in the next 90 days? Where am I going in the next 6 months? Where will I be 12/31/2020? And where will I be? And maybe just keep it there. I mean, we look at creating those someday goals, and we're going to talk about that. Back to the plug. Business Planning Clinic is Tuesday, and we will be talking a lot about everything Matt and I have been discussing between MREA and now this one thing, as well as the shift. So I guess the question I leave you with is, what does that statement going small mean to you? And there's things that you have to look at. Where have you noticed success in building previous accomplishments? So you have to know the past and you have to remember in order to learn from and to progress. Sequential, guys, sequential. Success is sequential. So if we don't remember where we were or what we did before and the results that it got us in, and we want different results, so we have to do differently, we're not going to get what we want. We're just going to get whatever life has to give to us, and we are not the average being. So at what time in your life, or with what aspect of your life, have you experienced success by narrowing your concentration to one thing? At what time in your life have you had the opposite experience? Less success because you were spread too thin. So I ask you to just think about, what does that statement mean, going small?
Yeah.
And where have you noticed success building in previous accomplishments? Let's not focus on what we haven't accomplished. Let's focus on what we have, and let's identify those successful steps that we took there.
Yeah.
And to Matt's point, think about who was with us when we were at our best.
Yeah. I like that. That's a good place to end on. We'll definitely dive deeper next Thursday when we continue these calls. We'll be at 11 o'clock next Thursday. And definitely please tune in for the Business Planning Clinic Tuesday from 10 to 12.
Tuesday, 10 to 12.
Yeah, we'll really be going into a lot more of this as well. So thanks, guys, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.